Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Facts Over Feelings Masterclass, where you will learn to communicate with your business through data. We will be talking a lot about how to run a business based on facts and not the stories we create. Sound familiar? This is a common issue I see with clients and in the community in general. We will be discussing the importance of numbers, why it is so hard for us to understand them, and how to break the language barrier and learn to communicate directly with our data. I will be presenting my partner on this project shortly, a brilliant young female mining engineer, and she will be our data translator. And we will be presenting our baby together, the GCC Business Dashboard. I am not kidding when I tell you it is the best thing out there for resellers, and you will quickly realize why. I will go over how to use the numbers that you can access on the tracker and dashboard to run your business from a position of power and not fear. I want you to leave this class knowing that there is a better way to run and an easy way to understand what your business wants and needs at all times. So put your phone on silent if possible, tie your kids to a tree if necessary, and take this time to absorb as much information as you can from this free class. You won't regret it. Introduction. Who the heck am I? Right? Let's start there. So I am a designer reseller and a business consultant, founder of the Global Collective Co. I have a corporate background that includes taken up retail sales management, retail buying, account management, CPG sales, marketing, and brand management for a main brand of a national company. I love business and data, but I need it to be digestible. Key. I have gotten incredible results from my consultations and course by simplifying complex concepts. My results have come from asking people to learn to understand and follow the data, not the crowd. I don't want to take too much of your time deep diving into my colorful past, but if you would like to know more about my previous experience in corporate America, visit my blog. It can be found on my Instagram link in bio. I have tons of free information for resellers, a lot of tips and tricks, a few detailed posts on my experience, my background, how I got into reselling, and how I built the Global Collective. I get a lot of messages thanking me for big changes in people's businesses and income just from the free information I provided over the years. So please take advantage of that. If you need extra help, a deep dive, and a literal map of how to run your business, what to look for, what to buy and why, how to price, etc., then you need to look into my GCC Business Build Out course. Want to learn to make more money for less work? How to run like a real business versus a hobby? It's all there, including my very coveted personal online sourcing strategy. I literally tell you exactly how I run the Global Collective. I'm not kidding. A through Z, down to how I source every single item in my closet. You can keep going at it alone, or you can get my solid strategy with a proven track record. Your call. But okay, let's move on to why you're here right now. I don't like to waste valuable resources. I don't like people wasting my time, so I would never waste yours. I want to make sure that you all know why you're here and make sure that this class is a good fit for you. Truth is, though, you will gain something from being here, and it is free. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it is a good investment of your time any way you spend it. But here are some statements to make sure that you are in the right place. You are in the right place if you want to stop running your business from an emotional place based on thoughts and feelings. Please don't do that. 2, you know that the data is the answer, but you are intimidated by it and don't exactly know what you're supposed to focus on. Common. You want to establish a line of communication with your business, but you don't speak its language. Talk about that. And lastly, you are ready to create a partnership with your data, a relationship of mutual respect versus fear and intimidation. Okay, so if you answered yes to all of these, you need this. Last thing before we start, make sure you stay until the end so we can show you exactly how we will use the dashboard to run our own business. There's valuable info up till the last second, and I want to make sure you leave this class feeling empowered by data. Also, there may or may not be a special little something for star students that finish the course. So let's begin. So if you have followed me for a while, you've probably heard me say your business does not care about your feelings many times in the past, right? If you just found me, hello, welcome. And also, your business does not care about your feelings. There, we got that out of the way. And that is the absolute truth. But I realize that that can make this already intimidating subject even more scary. It makes your business seem like this cold, distant boss that doesn't care about you. So I want you to delete that perception from your mind. Go ahead, delete. Instead, I want you to think about your business as your straight shooting, no bullshit bestie who will always tell it to you like it is. See, new acquaintances have to kind of pretend to care, right? And agree with your excuses of why you're not winning, or pretend to agree. Your bestie would be like, no, Bish, it's not the business. It's not entirely the economy. It's you. You need to get your shit together, stick to the facts, make moves, pick yourself up, and do something about it. Your bestie will help you when you are down. She will be your biggest cheerleader, and she will not let you give up on your dreams. That's your business, your data. It's not going to let you wallow in self-doubt, feelings, and emotions. It's going to guide you back to reality, numbers, facts, profit. Plot twist, it's going to guide you back in Chinese. Let me explain. We're going to break down the barriers in this section, okay? Have you ever been to a foreign country where you understood absolutely nothing and had to learn to communicate to get a desired outcome? I was in China in 2018. Normally, one would think King Google could get you out of any predicament these days. Well, what we did not count on was the internet firewall the government puts up to prevent you from accessing any of those sites that we're all used to, right? Guys, it was the funniest, most challenging trip I have ever been on. Up until that point in my life, I had never been in a situation where I could not communicate in some way or another with a person. With all the technological advancements available in those times, we had to default to the most primitive way of communication: hand signs, gestures, and pointing. I am not kidding. But it was amazing how many similarities one can find when you bring it all back to the basics. Basic human nature and understanding. And in the case of your business, the universal language of math. See how excited Christine gets when I say math. By the end of the trip, we had learned the key words like please, thank you, bathroom, street, hotel, food, survival, right? This is the issue with data. It's intimidating because it seems so far removed, so superior. It seems so complicated, so difficult. The truth is, we are just not communicating with it the right way. Our data holds all of the important information we need to run this business effectively. But the plot twist is, it's in an entirely different language. We need that information from it, so the only solution is to try to understand the basics of its language. In order to understand our data, we must at least try to learn its language. We don't need to become experts. We just need enough to understand what it's trying to tell us. It wants us to win. It has the answers for us. It's screaming the answers from the rooftops. We just need to understand what those screams mean. So moving forward, I want you to assume your business is your friend. It's trying to help you win, and it's constantly trying to tell you what to do. It may seem frustrating at first, but don't look at it as an obstacle. Look at this the way you would look at a crossword puzzle. It has an answer. It can be solved. It just needs some extra brain power. When you are just blankly staring at your data, focus on some facts. Start making some observations, write them down. Start with the most obvious stuff just to put something down on paper, and then start crafting some theories. So for example, my core students are constantly running business reviews and they are comparing to last year's numbers to find patterns and trends, right? Let's say that one of them has noticed that her total profit has decreased from last year. Okay, write down last year's total profit, this year's total profit, and then the difference. And then start going through the prompts on this slide. Start playing detective. I assure you that most of you would be able to solve the majority of the business problems if you started mapping it all out on paper and asking yourself these questions. This can be done with whatever sheet or program you are using, but as you continue into this class, you will see our dashboard will make it crystal clear for you. So let's talk about the most common issues that you all probably have, including us, right? I sent out a questionnaire and I had people from the newsletter subscribers fill it out. The main questions asked were, what is the most intimidating thing about data? And the second question was, what do you wish you could do but don't know how, and what would you like to get out of this class? I obviously can't include all the answers because this would turn into a 4-hour course, but here are some of the most common answers to those questions. And let me show you for the second question. Here are all the answers to the question regarding what you guys wish you could do or learn from this class. These are all really important. Most answers were very similar. They all had to do with understanding what to collect, track, look at, and how to use your data to make informed business decisions. We all want the same things. We want to understand the secret language of our business. So who speaks fluent data? We need a nerd speak translator. And I am proud to say that I went out and found us the best translator we could have asked for. Someone that's not only fluent in data, but actually works in the magical world of math formulas and spreadsheets. She literally builds dashboards to help massive businesses optimize their time and output for a living. I love data. I really do. I love digging in and trying to decipher what it's trying to tell me, but I am not the kind of person equipped to build out some crazy complex spreadsheet or process wild calculations. In life, you need to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. Please do. I invite you to do so. You need to be able to identify what you could master yourself and where you need to seek out the experts. I do not do my own taxes. I pay for an amazing accountant who knows the ins and outs of tax law. I would never try to mess with legal stuff. I pay my fancy lawyer friend who went to big schools and is the best in his field. For data, I was not about to try and attempt this myself or hire out some random person on Fiverr. I was going to the top. So who is the end all be all of data, time optimization, and spreadsheets? Who eats, sleeps, breathes numbers and calculations? Without further ado, people, meet my amazing, nerdy, data whiz, rock and spreadsheet enthusiast, Christine.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Isa. I'm so happy to have crossed paths with you and get to work on this dashboard with you because I think we just complement each other so well. But yes, I am the data piece of the GCC business dashboard. I am actually a mining engineer by trade, graduated from Colorado School of Mines, which is like one of the top 5 mining institutions in the world. But I was also a research assistant for the Excavation Engineering and Earth Mechanics Institute. I worked for Freeport-McMoRan, which was a global top 5 copper commodity producer. And I did a number of things while I was there, but really I just covered all of short-range mine planning for that surface copper and molybdenum mine. And really what that looked like was optimizing loading and haulage operations for a fleet of 35 mining trucks and 6 mining shovels that are like 3 stories tall, and then making sure that every single second of operation produced the most material possible. And that all boiled down to analyzing tonnage, haul truck cycle times, rolling resistance, operator efficiency, and so many other metrics. It's honestly a little dizzying even for me sometimes. So, like, I threw out a bunch of KPIs, a ton of different metrics, and if it's confusing for me even at times, imagine for the people that are trying to employ these things and work on them every single day out in the field. So one of my bigger jobs was taking all the information and then building out calculators that would go and calculate the impact of a couple seconds to the company's bottom line, so that somebody who doesn't have a mining engineering degree for a living could say, okay, if I made these couple tweaks, what does that do for our profitability? What does that do for our production? And how does that impact how much we're going to make in an entire year? And really what you guys are looking at right now is one of the 5 calculators that I've made so far. And I'm working on 2 more because there's such a desperate need for engineer brains in order to optimize every single second of operations. And I realize that this may sound a bit over dramatic, and it's hard to imagine how a few seconds over the course of a year can have any significant impact on the profit a mining company can make, especially off of some dirt. But I'm going to ask you guys to humor me for just a second, pun intended. So with this calculator, I can actually figure out the exact impact of a few seconds on the copper mine's annual profit. So we're going to be running with a couple assumptions here. Again, 6 shovels. These are as tall as 3-story buildings, 35 trucks that are as massive as 2-story houses, and the copper mine's running at 24 hours a day, 365 days per year. Mining takes no breaks, not even on holidays, which is why every single second counts. And really, what this calculator is doing is taking my mining engineering training and putting it all into easy inputs, and then figuring out what the optimized tons mined per hour should look like for this operation, as well as how much it should cost to mine out those tons from the ground. But then I can compare that optimized operation to what does it look like if I add just an extra 5 seconds to how we're running, just 5 seconds more, and what that impact is and how that compares to the optimized operation can cost up to nearly $3 million per year. $3 million per year from 5 seconds. And this is really conservative, right? Like, I've done all the math for you, but if copper price fluctuates just like it does with the stock market, that extra 5 seconds could cost anywhere from $2.9 million all the way up to $3.25 million, which is crazy. It's a massive difference and a massive swing, which is why we had to manage down to every single second for every single metric. So every input that's on here, I had to make sure was dialed into the second as much as possible.
So guys, this is who made the dashboard, Christine. This is all amazing, and I feel like my brain just did a triathlon. I'm exhausted. But the point here is we should all be doing what Christine does for a living for our own business. We need to figure out where we can optimize time to get the biggest payout possible for our little gold mine. See what I did there? Or business, mine, gold mine, get it? Anyway, it's amazing to not only have found such a perfect nerdy partner for the sake of data, but her entire life is dedicated to optimizing time in order to increase output. Imagine the time you're wasting that seems small, a little here, a little there, but what is the true cost to your bottom line year over year? Think about that.
And before we even start, I want you guys to promise the both of us that from now on, you will only focus on your own numbers. Isa says this all the time. Mind your own business. It is so important for you to only focus on how you're running, because it's too easy to get distracted by everybody else. And we should celebrate each other's wins and be happy for everyone's successes, but we all have different lives, different time availability, different capital, investment limits, risk tolerance levels. You cannot compare yourself to anyone but you. Now, Isa has a ton of free time and has built up a lot of capital because she works for herself, whereas I have extremely limited free time because I work for somebody else, and a lot of working capital. Neither of us has kids, but shout out to the moms who juggle overtime parenting and running a business at the same time.
Huge
Y'all
shout
are,
out to you.
yes, real MVPs. But in all reality, right, like all of our situations are so different, and you need to be hyper aware of how toxic the comparison game is. So don't play a game that you can never win. Win at your own game, compete against yourself. Your only competition this year is your last year's profit. So as we move into this class, it's you against you, and it does not matter what anyone else is up to. Mind your own business.
Yes, and on that note, do go ahead and compare yourself aggressively to your own past numbers. Push yourself to grow and be better. Aim for progress, not perfection, but aim for something. Like there's got to be an end goal here. The numbers will guide you. You do not have to do this alone. Comparing your own numbers and looking for answers will completely transform your business. Just make sure the comparison game is played by you against you, kind of like solitaire. So, what do we need to know about our business? So, clear and easy to understand, readable information on KPIs, key performance indicators. We'll talk about it. I want you to focus on increasing profit and decreasing time investment. To have a full understanding of the health and profitability of your business, I want you to know where to maximize time and effort in the business and where it's not worth it. We'll talk about that. A clear vision of where we stand at any given point to our yearly goal. And then I want you to shut out any extra information that confuses or detracts you from the plan. There is such a thing as too much data. So please take a screenshot, write these down, whatever you have to do. But I want to make sure that you can refer back to these when you are feeling lost or overwhelmed. When everything seems too much, just remember these bullet points. This is what you focus on. Keep it simple. So let's get a little bit into the key performance indicators that we want you focused on. So again, take a screenshot of these, right? Top categories: total profit, cash flow, average profit per unit, and time investment. Research the terms on here. Understand what they mean. Do not think of the pieces in terms of ranking. Think in terms of complementing parts of a wheel. They're key components of the machine, and they all serve a different purpose. The first two we'll call total profit and cash flow have to do with money. How much new money is your old money making? And how much money is constantly coming back to keep the circus running? One does not work without the other, especially if this is your full-time income or you're aspiring to achieve that. It's really important that these balance out. You want to make sure you are optimizing the ROI on the cash you put in. The more new money per piece, the less time invested to make the same money. But a sky-high profit with low cash flow will bring your operation to a halt. They need to work in sync. So now let's talk about average profit per unit and time investment. These are equally important, but relate to time, our most valuable and scarce resource. What is the best use of your time? How can you optimize the little time you have? Where can you invest it to get maximum return? Here's where my whole more money, less work magic happens. The more you get out per piece, the less of your most precious resource needs to go in, although capital investment does increase, and we'll talk about that. But then it's up to you to decide which resource is the most valuable to you. For me, time is more valuable than money. You can't store it. You can never get it back. Once you spend it, it's gone forever. Remember that. Top categories. Who pays you the most to work? You need to understand who is offering the most money and decent sell-through rates so you can create a multi-dimensional sourcing strategy. In my business, there are items that are brought in for velocity, quick flips, and items that are investments. Price points and sell-through rates are staggered so that I'm getting what I need out of every piece. It's all planned, but this all starts with understanding who can do what. Who are your key players?
And really, we also need to know if we're increasing profit to decrease time overall. So like Issa mentioned earlier, a lot of you guys told us that you get overwhelmed by just the sheer amount of numbers and data that you could process. And it's difficult to do it all, especially in bulk. Now, I know a lot of us are very visual learners. I certainly am. But how many of you have tried transforming your data into a picture? With this graph right here, I'm able to paint my business's bigger picture overall and see how I can increase profit to decrease time. And we can do that by tracking profit and units sold on a monthly basis and checking that our profit bars are increasing or going up while units sold line is trending down. If we're making more money while selling less items, we're effectively saving ourselves time, which is our most precious resource. You cannot get it back. But what other trends can we see in this view? What other patterns are there in our sales? Let's take a look at just May and June. Now, at first glance, May and June are showing the same profit, which might seem a little sad because we all want our trajectory and our success to be linear, even exponential, always increasing. But we need to look at the other half of this trend. Our profit is the same from May to June, but our units sold line is showing that we actually made that same profit by processing less units. That means that you were able to achieve more money with less time invested in June than you were in May. And that's huge. That's massive that you could make that same money without putting in so much of yourself into the business. Now let's take that out even further to October. October profit seems the same as May and June, but look at the units line trend. We've managed to make the same amount of profit selling almost half of the amount of items that we did in both May and June just to October. That's an incredible return on your time invested. You've increased that by doing literally half of the work and still achieve the same amount of profit. This is so critical to be able to track to make sure that you're not overextending yourself and that your business isn't running you. You're running your business.
So Christine, I want to add to this because I get messages like this from clients all the time, students, right? I'll get messages that say, I feel like sales are so slow. I haven't sold anything in 3 days. Summer sales are so discouraging, right? And then I make them go look at the facts. I'm like, I don't want to hear your BS. Go check your numbers first and then get back to me, right? Those were their feelings, facts. They come back and they're like, oh, wait a minute. I think I already beat last year's profit for the month. My profit per unit is way higher, which means I don't need to sell as many items to make the same amount of money. Welcome to reality, right? Her feelings are irrelevant. I need people to focus on what's on these charts. Look at the data that Christine just presented. 3 slow days don't mean anything, okay? I will actually end up with more money this year and I will have processed half the units. That's how I want you to think, okay? The key is when you notice your thoughts and realize you're trying to make up lies to yourself, go see if you can prove them, right? What does your data say? Because that's the truth, not what you're feeling, okay? On the flip side, I feel like I've been busy and I've been shipping out a ton of items, but I just don't have that much money in. Go check your data. Did your profit per unit decrease, which means that you have to process more items to make the same amount of money as last year, right? These are the things we want you to find on these charts, like Christine just did. There are answers in here. So how can you remedy that, right? If your profit per unit dropped and you're shipping more and you're working more, well, you can increase your profit per unit. How? Check the data. What does data say is a better investment of my time? We're going to go into how you can answer all these questions, plus all other business questions you might have living rent-free in your head, okay? But why our dashboard, okay? Let me just tell you why. Number one, it has just enough of the key information to help you take action and not a single chart more. And God knows Christine has tried to sneak more information in there, but no. It tracks profit versus ASP. This is huge. Most dashboards, charts, programs, they track ASP, and it's not the most accurate measurement of the health and profitability of your business. 4, it's ideal for cash flow tracking and management. Something a lot of people don't talk about, but it is right up there with knowing how to source. I mean, this is essential for business. And it was built by someone who creates spreadsheets and dashboards to calculate business optimization and output for a living. So let's go back through the points, right? So the first thing I want to tell you is this first part is called The Tale of the CEO versus the CFO by Isa Diaz. There is a difference between what you need to run a business as a CEO and as the CFO, okay? In a company, the CFO is a huge position, a key player, but that person deals with money, okay? Financials. The CEO needs reports from the CSO, the sales guy, the CMO, the marketing guy, and the CFO, the finance guy, to make top line decisions. So that's something to consider. Are you currently running with the information needed as the CEO of your company, right? A view of all of it, or are you trying to run this company off just financials? Your tax guy loves financials. In order to run the circus, you need a full view of more things. Here's the other thing, right? Another reason why I think this dashboard is the bee's knees, Grandma. I have seen all the ones currently available kind of by accident. I did 275 individual business consultations, which means I had access to most of the spreadsheets on the market right now. Let's be real, some of them were just real bad, okay? Some of them were so good that they were way too complicated, way too complex for most of us, okay? The number one reason my clients stopped tracking their data was because they were overwhelmed by their spreadsheet and were unsure of what they were supposed to be getting out of them. That's a problem, okay? So I went out and found someone to build the perfect dashboard, okay? One with just enough of the right data needed to take intentional action and not a chart more, because I know what happens when there's too much. I've seen it firsthand. So to address the final point, right, Christine, if Christine can help a copper mine make $3 million extra, or I guess save $3 million, right, by saving them 5 seconds in their operations, imagine what she can do for us. I mean, I'm sold on Christine. If she can do that for these people, we are just easy breezy for her.
Honestly, like with the dashboard, this stuff becomes a cakewalk because we make sure to spell everything out for you. Like, it's no longer your job to think about what you need to track and to think about how to even translate that into something actionable, something that you can make decisions off of. You don't have to know how to run Excel in order to use this dashboard because we did all the black magic behind the scenes for you. So what are we giving you as a KPI first line of sight view? What are your values? So with our dashboard, you're able to see a year-to-date view of total profit, profit per unit, number of units sold, total net sales, and then we break that down by month so that you can view your monthly cash flow, or the profit and cost of goods sold, your monthly units sold, as well as show your top 10 performing categories and brands, and how those are actually performing for you, how they're working to bring in total profit, how they're working in terms of profit per unit, average days to sell, how long it takes to flip, and the number of units that you are selling for those top 10 performers of categories and brands. And we don't just do this at the yearly view, we even break it down to a quarterly view, because while it's nice to zoom in and out as much as possible, we also need to be able to account for seasonal changes. So with the quarterly views, you're getting the exact same as the year-to-date views with the ability to switch or toggle between them for that more refined seasonal view. So again, that's profit per unit, units sold, total net sales, top selling categories and brands. But then on top of that, we've also been able to give you all these metrics, not just for your resale business, but we have a completely separate dashboard available for consignment, because that kind of business is different. You're sourcing that from people, not necessarily from data, which is why the two performances need to be tracked so you can make sure that's worth your time. But those consignment KPIs include all of the same ones from the resale side, as well as profit by source to ensure if consignment is worth your time and mental health. And then outside of the resale dashboard, the consignment dashboard, we've also made a sourcing calculator for you guys. We have a year-end review in there so that you can take notes of what's happened month to month. And remember that you get any future updates to this dashboard for free the moment that you buy in, the moment that you sign up, the moment that you decide that it's time for you to start running your business from a position of power, knowledge, and data. And for us, this type of development, it's iterative, and we really base it on your feedback and needs. So we're always working behind the scenes to ensure that you are best equipped to run your business with this dashboard. And with that, we need to ensure first and foremost that we're contributing to the overall health and profitability of our businesses. So in this year-to-date view, we use this chart to translate trends and patterns into that bigger picture that we talked about earlier. And we always need to have that direct line of sight into our yearly KPIs, which are our highest level business goals. So that's, again, that total cash flow, that profit and COGS split, units sold, average profit per unit, and then net sales. And here, net sales means total revenue minus the sold fees for your platforms equals cash flow. Now, imagine you're familiar with a lot of these KPIs, but they're mission critical and absolutely non-negotiable when it comes to the success of full-time reselling. Now, I'll admit that net sales and cash flow isn't something that I focus on as much because I'm a part-time reseller and investor with a separate full-time job. But Issa's here to tell you guys why you need to know it.
So thanks for that, Christine. And we'll talk about how it can affect different people, but this is one of the bigger issues I see, and I am so excited about this. Cash flow is one of the bigger issues my consultation and later course clients encountered as they started building up their profit per unit. It is imperative that you understand this relationship before you start going into bigger investments and bigger flips. Christine and I make really great money per flip, but we also put a lot of capital in. She has another job that provides her with consistent cash flow, and she then reinvests that into reselling. I have a solid sourcing strategy and pricing strategy, which allows me to have consistent cash flow. I also have been doing this for a while, and I built up a lot of cash, so I have kind of that, ease in doing that. I just want to make sure that you all understand the importance of slow and steady expansion. If you go too big, too fast without mapping out your cash flow and building out a little cash stash, having a strategy behind it, you might crash and burn. You can achieve whatever you put your mind to, but make sure you have a plan, a map, and that you are prepared for every level of your growth. This view of the dashboard will always display your most important numbers in real time. I want you to really look at this chart constantly. I don't want you to obsess about it, but I want you to understand what's happening here. So if you can see on the chart, we've made some adjustments. If you guys have the old version, you'll be really excited to get this. What you can see now monthly in the chart is in orange, you can see your cost of goods for that month. In green, you can see the profit for that month. And in the top number is your total cash flow. I want to make sure you keep an eye on all these metrics because they all balance out, they complement each other. You need to make sure that they're all in sync. And here's the other thing, okay? I know a lot of you want to move up in profit per unit. We want you to do it too, okay? But a sky high profit per unit increase right away tells me that there's something wrong. There's a red flag there, okay? So I want you to remember this saying that I found in the book, Profit First, okay? Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is king. At the end of the day, I want to make sure you guys are monitoring this to know how much money you have to play with per month and per quarter. Stay on top of this, because I'm really excited when you guys tell me that your profit per unit jumped $50, but then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't sound sustainable. The key is sustainable growth. So make sure that this chart is guiding you through sustainable growth on profit, business, revenue, all of this stuff, right? But just monitor it closely or it will get out of your hands and then there's a problem.
With that, as you're shifting your focus from a profit to a profit per unit focus, as well as a cash flow focus, we also need to make sure that we're taking our yearly KPIs and using them to calculate our time investment. We have told you that time is your most precious resource, which is why we need to know how we're treating that, if it's worth our time to invest in something. Essentially, what is our hourly reseller wage? Are you paying yourself a livable wage in your business? Is it truly worth your time invested to make the money that you're making? And we can answer these questions if we know how to calculate that hourly reseller wage, which here we're going to say is average profit per unit divided by average processing time per unit. And what that means is how much time is it taking for you to process one item for sale? How much time is it taking you to source, clean, prep, photograph, edit photos, list, store, ship, and literally any other associated processing time? Whatever it takes to get that sale out of the door, how long is it taking you to accomplish that per item? Because if we know that from our dashboard, our average profit per unit is $16.77, and it takes about an hour and 15 minutes per item to get it listed and sold, our reseller wage comes out to $13 per hour. Are you happy with that? Does your wage meet your goals? Are you paying yourself enough for your time?
I want to add something here. So when I did the individual consultations, right, there was a part in there where we talked about if they knew how much they were making an hour, right? And most people do not know what they're making an hour. And when we would even start talking about it, people would be like, oh God, I don't know. I'm probably making less than minimum wage. Well, that's not okay, right? You want to make sure that you know what you're making. You're paying yourself a respectable, livable wage, something that you would actually accept from someone else, and not disrespecting yourself with little pay. I mean, that is a key takeaway. You need to make sure that this is worth your time, because if it's not, go play with your kids, like go hang out, go do something, or take that information that might not be pretty right now and go, oh yeah, wait a minute. I don't work for minimum wage. I'm actually going to decide to pay myself, 25 bucks an hour, 30 bucks, whatever your realistic goal is, but make sure that you chose that wage and didn't just let life decide that for you.
Yes, absolutely. Where you are now does not define what you could be. So use this wage, use this value, use how you value your time to figure out and set the goals for your profit per unit for your business. Because if you decide to make that shift right now and increase your profit per unit from $16 and some change to $45 per unit, your hourly reseller wage comes to $36 per hour. And I don't know about you guys, but I'd be so much happier working for 36 bucks an hour than 13. I could go work at McDonald's for that and honestly be a lot less stressful because you don't have to run an entire business on top of that. So it's up to you to decide what you want to be at and what your time is worth, and going out and making sure that you're setting goals to achieve that. And we can do this because we're also providing you insight into how your inventory is performing for you, what your solds look like, and what are your top 10 categories and brands that are maximizing your profit and time in your business. Do you know what's selling best for you? Are you incorporating this knowledge into your sourcing strategy? What are your top selling categories and brands, and how are they performing for you? These are some of the best KPIs to know to guide your sourcing. Profit per unit, number of sold units, and average days to sell. All of these combined tell us how much we're earning from the top selling categories and brands, and then how quickly we're able to make that profit on average, how often we're turning that over in order to bring money through the door again. And this is what allows us all to balance our cost of goods, our profit potential, and then the time to hold and flip and the confidence associated with knowing that. I mean, Issa, you've got like a fabulous Tory Burch scheme that you ran for how long? Tell us a little about that.
Yes, I still think I might write my memoir, How Tory Burch Saved My Finances. But I don't know how many of you have been around here for a while, but I've told the story many times. It's on my reels, it's on my Instagram, it's on my blog. When I started reselling for fun as a side hustle, like to kind of distract myself from corporate America, I ended up making, listen up, people. I've been online sourcing since day one, and all of these were online sourced, right? But in a year and a half, I made $15,000 profit. Listen, wait for it. Flipping the same damn shoe over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, it was just the easiest money I've ever come across. I wish I had this chart. I had some silly Excel spreadsheets that were not nice, like Christine's stuff here, but that's how I started knowing the patterns and going, wait a minute, I could work really hard and try to find items that will give me this $50 per piece return, or I could literally just make it my part-time job to source this item over and over again. And why wouldn't you?
Yes, 100%. Like you absolutely need to use this information to hone your sourcing strategy and focus, and I mean laser focus on the categories and brands that are making you the most money and master them. There's too many external variables that can impact you and your profitability. There are too many brands out there to learn. There's too many styles and trends to stay on top of, and those are constantly changing because Gen Z is fickle as hell. So why bother learning them all? Learn your top 10 categories and brands and dominate those. You know that those will do well for you and run them until you absolutely can. We can continue to do that kind of analysis and that kind of focus, even with the platforms that we're selling on. So, do you know what platforms are selling best for you? What their KPIs are in terms of profit by platform, units sold by platform, which ones are making you the most money, and which ones are selling the most items? Because those don't always mean the same things. You can use this type of information to prioritize where you're sourcing. You can learn the demographic or the type of people that shop on these platforms. What are they buying? How much are they willing to pay for certain items? This type of information will help you figure out what will sell quickly and at a high profit on different platforms. And then on the flip side of that, you can use this data to prioritize your listing, especially if you don't use a cross listing service, which I don't know how you guys are getting by because it saves me so much time to only input the info once and click the button that says to cross list. But I mean, in that, with this type of information, you can understand how much search algorithms and SEO or keywords and advertisements affect platform sales and focus more attention on platforms that sell more for you.
It's just a good view to understand where your money's coming from. We always want to know who's paying us. Mine's actually, Poshmark has outperformed eBay. So again, right, if you're seeing that shift in your charts, is Posh or VA worth it? Is any investment that is going to push your sales in that platform worth it? Data says yes, go for it. Data says no, you can maybe try it out as a risk, but there's a guide here helping you to decide that.
And with all of this data, we also need to make sure that we can zoom in and out as needed so that you have clear vision on how each metric is affecting your ability to reach your goals. We need to know all the KPIs we just covered on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis because they all impact each other. Just like in that puzzle wheel that Issa showed us, they're all tied together. No one part can get taken out and all the others will work just fine.
It's really important to constantly keep all of these numbers in sight. They all play an important role, and one is not as impactful by itself without knowing how it's affecting the other in the overall picture. One example of how focusing on one number and not top line numbers as a whole is when clients would come back from their follow-up consultation and their profit, this is what I talked about, right? Their profit would shoot up, right? Go from 25 profit per unit to 80. okay, in theory, it looks good. And they were super pumped to tell me, right? They would lead with that number, but a simple glance at the other numbers, and you could tell that that person had tied up all her capital to get that result and was now having cash flow issues. So crazy high profit per unit doesn't really matter if you don't have the cash to run. See what I mean? These all matter together. They have to make sense. They have to work in sync. One can't shoot up and then the others are kind of like iffy because your business is not going to flow.
Yes, absolutely. And it's way easier to be able to track sustainable growth if we're only ever comparing how we're performing now to how we were performing at the same time last year. So while Isa and I pay attention to our monthly KPIs, we have to make sure we zoom out to a quarterly and yearly view. Otherwise, it's way too easy to get lost in or discouraged by a slow sales month. That isn't a true reflection of you. That isn't a true reflection of your business's health and your overall performance. You have to be able to take it from a bigger picture.
And I think that's really important. This is something I've talked about a lot on my account, but a lot of people, clients, students come back and they're really discouraged because they have a bad month, right? I'll get a message that's like, oh my God, it's just been the worst month. I'm terrible. They start doubting their, life choices and they get really discouraged with the business. They're really down. But then once I make them check their year-to-date perspective, like the big picture, they're killing it. So we need to ensure balance in our perspective. Don't look at too much data, but don't pigeonhole yourself to view a day, a week, a month.
Quarterly views are really great for seasonal metrics, but tie that information back into all the quarters and learn how those will specifically impact your yearly performance. Because just because coats are selling really well for you in the winter doesn't mean they're going to sell super well for you in the summer, right? You need to make sure that you understand how your business will ebb and flow with those seasonal trends, with those quarterly trends, and never lose sight of the bigger picture.
So now let's take another view that's available on this dashboard, which is the consignment dashboard, okay? And this is great. Listen up, everyone, whether you consign or not. A lot of people reach out to me and they're like, I don't think I need the consignment dashboard. Do you sell your own stuff? Because if you do, you need it, okay? The thing is, when you're selling items, personal items, right, on top of what you flip for profit, there's a different way to view all of that, to calculate. When you flip personal items, they could throw off your stats because your perception of value on that stuff is different. When you own the item, right, you bought it, you used it, and at that point, you just want to get rid of it. The idea on something like that would be, it's not about profit. It's more like whatever's better than having it sit in my closet, okay? So for example, let's say you have a bunch of Target dresses that you bought in every color because they were cheap and comfortable. And then you fire sell them all because you're sick of them, right? For like 10 bucks a pop. If all of that information is combined with the stuff that you pay to flip, it might skew your category to dresses, but it'll bring your average profit per unit down. Except those pieces do not contribute to the reality of your business. You didn't buy them with the intention of selling. Completely different. With the consignment dashboard, you can account for those items in the money back, but not have them affect your actual business numbers. If you're a business build out course student, don't forget to take the bonus consignment course. This is the perfect tool to decide if consignment's right for you. I have a lot of clients that have been doing consignment for years under the guise that it was free, except it isn't. It costs your most valuable resource, and people don't usually track the actual total payouts, what the real value is. This dashboard will help you understand the exact return for time investment, whether it makes sense for you to continue, and what changes you would need to make in order to make your consignment business more profitable without messing up the stats for your actual capital investment in the business. This might show you that not all brands or categories will be worth your time to consign, process, and then you can decide what items are worth doubling down on or just completely cutting out.
On top of the resale dashboard and the consignment dashboard, we also have the sourcing calculator to make sure that we're protecting our time before we ever even buy an item. And this is a really great tool for everybody, but especially important for those of you that are trying to move into that higher cost, higher profit per unit item inventory. And I'm not talking designer here, but if you're looking at $40 to $70 investments per piece, this tool will be great to give you an idea of what profit you're looking at, what pricing should look like, and then the confidence to take the chance. Pro tip, this calculator also works in offline mode for Google Sheets and Excel. So you can totally whip this out while you're checking comps at the thrift, and you would be able to put in your cost of goods, how much it costs to buy the item while you're there, how much you would estimate that it would resell for, and then your overall profit spread by platform. I'm automatically calculating the selling fees for all of us so that you can decide right on the spot whether or not this item is going to pay you enough across any platform and it's worth investing in right now. And then we've seen the top 10 categories and brands chart, and we know what's working the hardest to make us the most income out of our business. So now we need to make sure we always have enough units in stock. I'll be honest, this is one of my most favorite things that I've been excited for with this latest development because it helps manage our income throughout the year. The counters are checking for unsold inventory and update automatically as items are sold, but they're pulling your top 10 categories and brands, and they are telling you how much you have in stock right now so that you can automatically know when to source for more of your top 10s and make sure that you're pulling in the money that you need to because you've got those best items in stock.
So here's an example where this would be key. This actually happened to me, and we're going to talk about it so it doesn't happen to you. I think a couple years back, I was killing it on cash flow. I was killing it with it felt like my business was solid, right? Money was in the account, but as I tracked my profit per unit, it kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And I was like, what is it? Why? Everything else looks good. What's eating at my profit per unit? And come to realize, since I didn't have a fancy chart like this, what had happened was I let my top profiting category, which was bags, drop to like 5 active units. That's what was happening. I was missing those huge pops of profit from my bag sales just because I didn't know that I had enough of them, right? Problem with not knowing also is bags are one of my most expensive categories. I pay the most per piece. So if I had a chart like this where I could have been monitoring my inventory, I could have seen bags dropping and I could have started slowly investing in more pieces to bump that number up. Instead, when I realized it was too late, I was down to 5 and I had to go make a massive buy on bags. So you can avoid that by tracking your inventory this way.
So critical to manage your cash flow and make sure that it's going to bring in the money that you're expecting so that you don't experience those dips. I love the inventory counter charts.
And while Christine continues to nerd out over that, let me nerd out about my own thing, right? The year-end review, for those of you that have this already, you had it as an extension, it is now officially part of the upgrade. And it's something that my course clients are expected to do. This is obviously a longer process on their part because they have to go deeper into some things that I asked them to check. But I want you all to start getting used to recapping your year. Understanding the numbers as a whole. What happened? What worked? What didn't? What should you do more of? What should you do less of? In the notes section, I want you to write down anything you will need to remember about your business when you look back in future years. For example, let's say that this year you took a 2-week vacation in June and that's why your sales dipped, okay? Next year, when your June number is looking too low, for this year, you know exactly why. It's not going to change the way you think about your business moving forward, right? On the flip side, if you ran a massive clean out sale in August, okay, or you came across a crazy wholesale opportunity and then next year's August sucks, right? because you're comparing it to this one. Before you blame it on yourself, life, the economy, go see what your notes say. It's in there.
Yes, and I even like to use this to review, to track like my holy grail inventory items, the unicorns that are seasonal or style trends that may have been popular this year, but could easily fall out of style by next year. Like these are the things that you need to be tracking in your notes section so that you're not taken aback when it's not working as well for you next year.
Understanding your yearly business and keeping records will help you manage expectations and future goals.
But we can't do any of that unless we make sure that we're tracking the right information from the get-go, which is why we made this totally revamped inventory and solds tracker from Issa's first iteration of the free one. That bitch got a hell of an upgrade, a heck of a facelift, and we're here right now with the new and improved inventory and sold tracker. And really, we wanted to make sure that you weren't collecting all the data just for collecting's sake. We're only collecting the key information and capturing that in our tracker so that you're not overwhelmed by what you need to put in there. It's only what you need. And then on top of that, we've also applied conditional formatting. Ugh, super excited for this feature too, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So really, of the information we for sure need to be documenting: purchase date, when did you buy your inventory? When did you get it listed? What source did it come from? What category does it fall in? What brand is your inventory? You can go ahead and write your description in there. We're not running any data analytics off of it, but that's of course for you to be able to go and list it as needed. We also have an additional info column. So maybe you need to put like your SKU or your storage location or whatever info you want to track. You've got an additional info column. We also are tracking size, cost of goods, shipping, taxes, and then all of that is calculating automatically for you into that orange total cost column. And then from there, once that inventory sells, you can go and mark it as sold under the sold tracker with the little drop-down menu. And then you're going to say what platform that's sold on, what date it's sold so that we can figure out days to sell, how long it took to flip, what that sold price was, any selling fees, shipping fees, or any consignment client cuts that you're taking out of that. And what's really awesome is as soon as you go and mark that item as sold, it'll highlight all of that out green for you. So you can see very visually which of your inventory is actually sold, which has not, and you can make sure that you're focusing on what's left and what needs to come next. So you're also seeing some conditional highlighting in white and orange. The orange is telling you you need to get your ass a gear and go and list some stuff because you have a ton of items that you've purchased, but you haven't gone and listed it. So this is telling you what's still sitting in your death pile and giving you that nice little kick in the butt to go and get it done because it's right in your face, alerting orange that you have not listed what you have sitting at home or in storage. And then of course we've got the whited out items. They just haven't sold yet, but they've been purchased, listed, and are out of sight, out of mind for right now until it's time to go pull them out because they've sold. And we also have this available in a free tracker that's completely separate from the dashboard. So if you're also like a spreadsheet nerd, or Issa loves to call me the spreadsheet wizard like me, you could go and figure out all these things yourself. Just take the free tracker and export it. I mean, like you could pull it into a pivot table and then you can manipulate it by the filters and change out how they're all organized versus the sub filter and everything. But I mean, we've gone and done this all for you.
Listen, Christine, that all sounds real fun. If you're Excel enthusiasts like Christine, knock yourself out doing it manually. If you guys know me, I am the pay to play person. So you can also just pay the one-time fee and get all this info, easy to read, beautiful charts, all delivered to your mail. You know which one I would choose. You know how I roll. So for me personally, Christine, I know you'd get a kick out of doing it manually, but I would rather just get the information. Just saying. Okay, and that concludes our Facts Over Feelings Masterclass. I really hope you enjoyed it. We put our little hearts and souls into all of this.
We both really believe in the power of data and letting numbers guide us. And as we mentioned in the beginning, your business always knows what it needs more of and less of. but it's up to you to try to understand what it's telling you. And this dashboard will help you do just that. It'll help communicate with your business and translate that secret language of the data for you. And the current price for the dashboard is a one-time payment of $119. This price does include any future updates done to the dashboard from its current form. So you buy it now and you get all the updates as soon as they come down the pipeline for free.
You guys, this price is a steal when it comes to learning to speak fluent data. But if you made it this far in the course, you are a star student and deserve something a little special. Just one more slide and you get a special discount as a thank you for putting up with our asses this long. But before we get to your code, I just want to share some user submitted testimonials. I just want to give you like a minute to read through them. You can pause the class if you need to, but I mean, I really want you to read these. Listen, we made the thing. It's our baby. Of course, we think it's magical, but you don't have to just take our word for it. These are all current users of the dashboard, and they do not get a damn penny to say any of this. This tool is completely changing the name of the game. Trust me, you won't imagine your life without it once you're in. Our users certainly can't. So if you're ready to join us, ready to start communicating with your business and understanding the secret language of data, and you kind of want to do it with a special discount, there you go. You made it. You survived. Thank you for hanging out with us. Just make sure you enter the code that you see on the slide at checkout, and you will get $20 off your purchase. Thank you again for sticking it out with us till the very, very end. Christine and I are always around if you need us. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.